So, here we go. I've been pacing up and down for the last 10-15 minutes. The board that I've got behind the camera, the notes that I kind of keep on it, the heading for the topic for the Godcast, which only really came through yesterday. It's fascinating for me to watch how it's unfolding. Number 24 now, so we're going on to, what's it been, 4 or 5 months probably. I've been doing these. And it's interesting to watch how they unfold week by week. Sometimes I've got an idea of how I'm going to do it. Number 18 was that number, it was all going to be about spirituality and God. It was leading towards that kind of a few weeks leading up to it. But for the last 4, 5, 6 weeks now, it's just been, again, all I'm doing with this work is reporting where I am. I'm expressing my own journey. I'm expressing the stuff that I'm learning every single day on my own. The stuff that I'm learning, the stuff that I am helping other people find relief with, which all comes from my own experience. Again, this topic today is based on my own experience. I believe you can only teach from experience, always. Yesterday morning, it started off, in fact it was a fantastic day. It didn't start off, it was a great day, it was a brilliant day. We went and we recorded the latest kind of series of videos for version 2 of the programme, which I believe Michael's working on just now, and that's going to be getting released very shortly. So it was a fantastic day, sun was shining, which has not been happening that much up in Scotland. My face is a wee bit scalped today, and it was lovely just being in it, being in the sunshine down by the riverside and talking about the answers and the solutions and all the stuff that I'm doing on here every single day, whether it's the posts or the poems or coaching or the programme itself, or on the Godcast, all these different ways that I am now absolutely blessed, and the people that have shown up, almost seems like weekly now to try and help this mission, because it offers solutions, it offers a different way of doing things. The way is the way, and that way, no matter what it is, which is very important going into this conversation. I am always about the solutions. I'm always about what's the how do we make it better? How do we fix it? That's what it's all about. Always has been, always will be. But sometimes you need to kind of dip your toe in and have a wee kind of sneak and a look at the circus and the zoo and the jungle to see how bad it is. And for me, that doesn't really happen too often. I don't spend almost any time. Now, obviously, because of what I'm surrounded by, those who are less aware sometimes will bring information to me. Did you see? And 99 times out of 100, I didn't see it. I don't watch anybody, I don't listen to anybody. I probably got one real human being who's a teacher just now, a man that's a sounding board to me, and really evolved spiritual being who I will seek counsel with and ask for his advice on things. Really his take on things, and he's never ever gave me advice, but most of the stuff that I'm doing, I'm working out with myself. I am sitting in meditation. The last few weeks has been full God. It's been insane. From outside probably looking at it, it's insane. For me, I understand how it works, so full God to me, anybody that sees the hashtag full God, that just means that I'm working full time for the divine. It means that the coffee stopped, the sugar stopped, or any distraction, and I'm really kind of full on committing myself to this work, which I always do, but there's different levels to it. And I think over the last couple of weeks, it's been really kind of proper full God. There's not been a lot of sleep. Last weekend I was absolutely burst. I ended up sleeping for 12 hours both kind of Friday night, Saturday night, and also between 4 and probably 6-7 hours during the day. Absolutely exhausted, almost burnt out it felt like, which for me, I've never really been tired. Thanks to the vaccine damage that I received at 13, this hyper-stimulated immune system, kind of blessing and a curse obviously, but I don't really do tired, and I love when I'm tired. So the weekend just passed, this is Thursday I'm recording this will go out tomorrow. The plan is always to keep getting them out on the Fridays. But the rest that I got at the weekend, how tired and exhausted I was, it was really just a result of the last kind of couple of weeks of being full God, and all the expansion and all the goodness that's coming through it. But at the same time, it absolutely does have sometimes it catches up with me, and it can take me out to the point where I need to stop. And that was the case at the weekend. And then over the course of this week, it's been kind of gaining momentum again. Between the live groups every morning, 5:30, the meditations, the group, the programme itself, which is expanding every single day. People are being drawn to it every single day. It's attracting a certain type of people who are at a place where a lot of them, they've tried everything in their words, and a lot of them have been searching for some of them decades, some of them 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, trying to find answers, trying to find ways through the maze of this world that we live in, trying to find their own relief, trying to find their healing. And with this work and with this topic today, it's, to me, it doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter what you're coming in with, doesn't matter, whether it's the addictions or whether it's the heartache or the heartbreak or the anxieties, the mental health, all the way up to kind of suicidal. It doesn't matter what you're coming in with. I absolutely know, because of my own experience in so many different fronts, that there is a solution. There always is a way. The way is a way, but there always is a way to maybe not get back to the way it was meant to be, in terms of how you come into this world. That divine perfection, that divine, just that essence, that innocence of purity that we come from, which is God. Some people call it God. But no matter what's happened to you in this world, then I absolutely know there is a way to get back to a place where you can manage your way through it and make the best of it. That's what it's all about. It doesn't matter what's happened to you. It's how you you deal with it, get beyond it, and then eventually, hopefully, you can transcend it, because that's a possibility no matter what you're dealing with. So this topic, this subject, is called Protect the Innocent. And this came through yesterday. Michael mentioned something to me. Michael, Michael and Fern, everything you're seeing online just now, they basically coordinate everything. Since January they've been almost full time with myself, and they're putting everything together. And Michael, because of his level of awareness now, it's like he doesn't dip into the circus, doesn't look at the truth or stuff. Doesn't see the horrors of the world, but yesterday he felt the need to mention to me current affair that's going on. The newsreader, I'm not even going to say his name, the BBC dude who was caught with the child pornography, and and again, I haven't seen any of this. I don't obviously don't watch the news. BBC is like that's a swear word to me. Any of that kind of stuff, and the stuff that kind of spews through it, I don't see anything. But when Michael, obviously the way he was affected by it, which was, that kind of got my interest straight away. The fact it was affecting him so negatively, and then kind of pondered it, kind of late into the evening last night, just thinking about the world and the work that I do, specific to this type of work, and my experiences with it. The way that this way of navigating your way through things, the way that it's helped so many people over the years. It's something I deal with on a weekly basis, sometimes a daily basis. Obviously got my attention, and I found myself getting back into it. And then this morning, and I got up, had my breakfast done here from 4 o'clock this morning. We had the meditation, which was finished at about 6:30 this morning, live online 5:30 to 6:30. Finished at 6:30 today, cut it short, and then I was called back into my own meditation and really just kind of contemplating. Here we go again, back into this, this absolute jungle of just darkness and horribleness that exists in this world just now. Which for me, the first time that I really came across it in terms of the scale of how bad it is was probably back in 2016. Or probably 2016, 2017, and funnily enough, whatever way you want to call it, wasn't funny, but it was Donald Trump at the time. Again, I never really, Donald Trump means nothing to me. He's another clown within the circus. For me at this stage, there's only darkness or light. There's God and the solutions, and then there's everything else, and I pay zero attention almost to anything else. And at the time, a man who I watch online, the only person I watch online, a really kind of advanced spiritual being over in America, who was talking about the possibility of Trump, even with all the stuff that he'd been through and the stuff that he'd done and who he was, that he may well be a possible vehicle to bring in some sort of hope or solutions. When he was just about to become president, maybe I can't remember the exact dates of it. And one of the things that he was talking about, or the people around about were talking about, was the challenges that the people within, particularly in America at the time, they were talking about paedophilia and the damage that it does, and the scale of it on a worldwide level. This is before Epstein and all that kind of stuff, and it really caught my attention. They were talking about between 600,000 and 700,000 children going missing every single year. Now I can't, please don't quote me on this, whether that was just worldwide or just America or just worldwide. I can't actually remember, it was a long time ago. But the number just absolutely, it knocked me, I couldn't believe it, you know, it really kind of almost took me out. And I found myself, as a lot of people do, that was really the kind of the time when I started to look at the truther stuff. 3-4 years previous, I'd had the enlightened experience and basically disappeared in terms of looking at what's going on in the world. It was all about God. And then when I came back, you know, now with this work, I believe that we need to see how bad it is so we can do something about it. That's the way that I make peace with it. At the time when I was learning this stuff and I saw what was going on in the world and the stories, and back then, 2016, 2017, the amount of information that's obviously been taken down now in terms of the amount of investigative journalists that were basically, you know, documenting what was going on in the world and what was happening. In specific, this case of, you know, the sexual exploitation of children. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't stop crying, and I'm very emotional with this now. So we might need to do a couple of cuts, a couple of takes. Even before I come on, I'm sitting with the dog and I'm going, here we go, man, back into this again for whatever reason. You know, and the reason is because, you know, when you see how bad it is, and you know that there is a way to make it better, to enable others to find a relief. As I always say, when you get it for yourself, then you need to pass it on. That's God's work. You know, you need to basically pay it forward so other people can basically try and find the same answers and solutions that I've found to all these different subjects that I have been, you know, blessed with, I suppose, you know, between the mental health stuff and the PTSDs and, you know, the anxieties and depression and, you know, the kind of almost, you know, suicidal, absolutely. The stuff I've been through with the medications and the doctors and the therapies, and, you know, anybody that's been close to me knows my story. And the sexualisation of children is something that I believe everybody has been through. The minute you see something that's, you know, explicit at too young an age, then, you know, that innocence that we come in with, that divine perfection, is compromised. And I'm no different from that. I've experienced different things at different stages of my life. Many of them I wish I could change. But I believe, again, that I was able to, you know, go through and get the experience from these different events, and then eventually, you know, much later down the line, when it started to come out for me, was really when I was at the lowest point I'd ever been. I was in one of the hospitals in Glasgow, and whatever medication I was on, or maybe I was just broken to the point where there was no way back, and it felt like I was just speaking my truth, you know, and expressing some of the things that I'd been through in my life. And as always, you know, it's when you go through something, you know, there's different ways it can affect you. And with this subject, you know, talking specifically about, you know, the sexualisation of children, abuse towards children, you know, and there's very many levels to that. I get that, you know, from, you know, just seeing things of a graphic nature, things like pornography, all the way up to, you know, the darkest of the dark, which I'm not even going to say. You know, there's many different levels to it, and I get that. But for me, you know, the minute we're exposed in any way, then we're compromised, and depending how, you know, deep and how heavy and how dark that has been, the levels of separation that take place within the human being, from just being like tainted or affected negatively, all the way up to complete separation, you know, from yourself, from your heart, from your soul. And, you know, some people go to a place, you know, and talk about, you know, just splitting completely from the entire self, the divinity. That's absolutely the case, and that happens way too regular. You know, it's something that we need to, you know, find a way to get beyond. And when I looked in this morning, when I was sitting for breakfast this morning, and I saw this human being walking into court, you know, with the sunglasses on, and, you know, he was kind of staring down the media almost. And then, you know, fast forward, you know, when I'm just catching, it was a 5-minute interview somebody was doing, and they were going after him. It was one of these kind of a proper news channel, you would say, who was basically, you know, completely, you know, here is what's happened, here's what he's done, and this is a sentence he's received, which was like a 6-month suspended sentence, so no custodial sentence. And, you know, at the same time the report was making the point that there's people being jailed just now for information, for posts they're putting on social media, whereas this being who for how many years has been sitting as the face, one of the faces of the evening news, and the point that this other reporter made, that he was the one that basically brought you know, the news that the Queen had passed to the world. This person was given this honour of like bringing this to the nation. And really for me, straight away I'm thinking, well, it's no real surprise, you know, when you get into that corporation, that organisation, and the history that's in there, you know, and then you've got somebody like that who's obviously been protected in whatever way, whether they knew about it, whether they didn't, no, but there's enough evidence, there's enough smoke to realise there's some sort of fire there and some sort of cover up, you know. So when I looked into it, and you think this man is now sitting free this morning, and the things that he's done, and the evidence is there, obviously, you know, in terms of the communications and obviously the phone records and the people that are speaking up against him as to what's happened. You look at the world, and you know, straight away you're thinking like, what is going on? What is happening? You know, and for me, when I really had my eyes opened to the world, I started to see through things. When I came back from that really profound experience through meditation, when I started to see the world, and then I started to look at the information online, and people were basically breaking down, you know, the way that it's kind of fed into us. A lot of the times, you know, most of the time, it's hidden, so you can't really see it. But the amount of people that have basically done breakdowns of the kind of Disney stuff, and you know, the amount of different films that I would sit and watch with my children, Monsters Inc. was one of them. And they break it down, then they capture it, they'll freeze the screen, and they'll show you different things, you know, in the background that it's too quick for you to see it, but your unconscious mind is taking it in. And then you start to see like where that is, and how vast it is, and how many different areas, you know, just in the music industry, just in the like films, and Hollywood, and then it feeds into the music industry. And before, it was probably kind of hidden in plain sight. Now, then it seems like it doesn't matter anymore. You know, they're all walking about dressed as devils, and you know, sex and sexualization, and the depravity and the levels that they take it to is absolutely demonic. You know, and you know, the challenge that we obviously face is, when you can see it, when you have a level of awareness, you can see it. I'm looking at it just now and I'm going, right, okay, it was like the ceremonies over at the Olympics, what was that, like 3-4 weeks ago. When you look at that at the time, you know, when I see it, I walk in, I just laugh, you know, because I can see it, I can see the symbolism, I can see what they're doing with it, I know what they're up to now, which for me is the fuel for the fire, right? I know who I'm up against, I know who we're up against, the light, and now we can do something about it. But even, you know, not so far away back, the opening ceremony of the London Olympics, and there's a great video that I shared with a load of my students, where your man Russell Brand was on it, and he was like the kiddie catcher, you know, going about, and when it shows you the bus that are inside, it's all these kind of new age hippies. And the truth of video that I watched way back was him basically, one of the books he released where he's a Pied Piper, you know, leading the children. And you know, the amount of symbolism, you know, linking to where we are just now, with the virus, and you know, the kids that are on the hospital beds, and there's so many different bits within. If you go back and re-watch with fresh eyes and a new level of awareness, the opening ceremony of the London Olympic Games 2012, I think that was, then you know, there's just, and at the time you're watching, you're thinking, what are they doing here? What is this all about? Because it feels off, you don't quite know what it is, it feels quite off, but then you start to understand the symbolism and the way they use the stuff, then, you know, some would say it's by, you know, absolute design. And when you look at the music industry, and you look at the, you know, the films, and you look at, you know, the way things are basically fed into us through the media, then there's no question that it absolutely is by design. And you look at how it basically affects, you know, you look at society just now, and the challenges that we face, then obviously, you know, there's something not right, and there's something he's done about it. And the way that it's been normalised, you know, that's one of the biggest challenges. The way that this has been normalised, and the way that it's basically fed into children at a young age, obviously the challenges we face between male and female, and that whole, you know, whatever that is, and also then, you know, how it's celebrated. You know, you can't get away from it. The minute you go into Facebook, I basically post on Facebook and Instagram to get the message out there. But the minute you're on there, the reels and the feeds start to come in, and you can't get away from it. You'll see where people are, you know, and you see how normal it is for these young men and young women, you know, to be talking about the amount of people have slept with, the amount of kind of what's the levels of depravity, you know, so what's the worst thing you've ever done, questions like that. Even just, what is it, probably a couple of months ago, I remember the day that it happened, a young, I'm not going to say a lady, a young woman in America, Hayley Welsh her name is, who's became really famous, and I saw the other day that she'd made her first million. Basically, reporter sticks a microphone in her face, and she came away with this, again, I'm not going to say this catchphrase, and now she's been celebrated on so many different platforms and talk shows, and I saw last week she was throwing the opening ball at one of the pitch of the New York Mets game, the baseball, and I'm watching and I'm looking at it and I'm going like, what happened? Why is this celebrated? Why is this absolute filth? From just this horrible, like despicable level of consciousness, that spewed out her mouth when she was probably drunk. In fact, she looked drunk when she said it, and then how it's celebrated, in this world we're living in just now. What is it that actually makes that happen? How do we get to that place? And it's because it's been normalised, so it's so something absolutely needs to be done about it. It's the world is broken, the world is sick, the world is in a place just now that isn't working. So few, I think, have the ability to know how to make it better. I think a lot of people are now starting to wake up when it starts to affect the children. When it starts to affect the families. When people are affected with this directly, there's almost like the kind of boiling frog analogy, where it's just happening all the time and it becomes normal and you're okay by it, and then before you know it you drown. That's what it kind of feels like just now, the way they're feeding it in. And when you see that man walking free from prison, you see him getting away, and that happens more than, I think that's the norm. Anybody who's been convicted of paedophilia, I think it's really quite rare that they go to prison, and for me it's very, very simple. What do you do with that? How do you fix that? What can you do to make him better? And I think in some instances there possibly is a way to make it better. It's how do you judge that? How do you basically make that judgment as to if somebody is reformed and they've seen the errors of their ways and they never ever do it again? There's the other option, which would be to, as my mum used to say, and my dad as well, if somebody does that to a child, back in the day, what they would do is they would feed them to the women, which is haunting when you think about it. Give them to the mummies of the children that have been affected. No, the dads, give them to the women, and watch, and see, what they need to do to make him repent and see the errors of his ways. Because somebody who's at that level, very difficult, probably impossible for them to get back, to when you've done that kind of stuff. And the reasons, of course, that it takes you to get to that stuff. I mean, how does somebody get to that level where they're actually going down that path? That's an entirely different question, and one I'm going to be talking about in a wee bit. So what do you do with them? Do you put them in jail? Do you feed them to the women? Is it execution? Because that would be my immediate response as a guy who grew up in building sites. Anybody comes near anybody that I love, my children, my son, my daughter, instantly, they're done away with. There is no, and I will go to jail for that. There is no question about it whatsoever. It's cut their throat, do away with them, and that you're basically doing away with a disease. Somebody that has the ability to do that to another human being, never mind a child. There is no story that fits in the box. There's nothing you can say that's going to allow me to forgive you for what you've done. And this is me coming from a position of the divine and love in God. Something that happens to somebody that I love, and it's hard enough watching it with somebody that you don't even know. Where I hear about that very often with the work that I do within the Vortex, people coming in, and talking about, their experiences, some of them 40, 50, 60 years ago, and they're reliving it as if it's just happened. They can tell you exactly, when they lost their innocence, when it happened, when the decimation took place. And then, the sexualisation of children, there's many, many different levels to it. From entry level, seeing the images of the porn, being exposed to it, a lot of children, messing about, exploring, I suppose, when they're young, with cousins or whatever it is, or sibling, or different people around about the family, kind of just messing about with ignorance, I suppose. That can do enough damage in itself. But then all the way up to, the full-on kind of sexual abuse stuff, the damage that leaves behind, I see it, and I've witnessed it very many times. The trauma that causes and the separation that takes place, the amount of people that are stuck in addiction, the amount of people that are stuck in a place, where life doesn't have any meaning and they want to end it, and they're living with that shame and that guilt and that dirty feeling, that compromised, almost like, like way beyond even like why did it happen. It's then how you carry yourself through your life and make the best of your life going forward. For so many people, it's nigh on impossible. And for what I see within the world in terms of the therapies and the ways to get beyond it, the minute you talk about it, it makes it worse because you're reliving the experience. Again, you understand the law of attraction, you understand how things work. When you shine a light on anything, you go back and you relive a childhood experience, something that's happened to you, and for whatever reason try to make sense of it, the blame, the shame, the guilt, the part that you played in it, trying to understand, how it happened, like who was there, who should have been there, who wasn't there to protect you, all this kind of stuff. And you can't make sense of any of that, you really can't. It's very, very difficult to make your way through. So easy to understand why so many people, they disappear into booze, into drugs, they just completely off the rails, because the separation that takes place, and the overexposure to things that should never have happened, the path that can take you on, a lot of people don't escape for that, and that's something that needs addressed, absolutely. So the trauma, the addiction, the suicidal tendencies, the ways that people don't get beyond it. At that point, they have won, and the dark side has won, and there is a way, absolutely, to go beyond it. There is a way to find a path or a solution where you can start to make peace with it, where you can start to heal it. And I understand that for anybody that's going through it, anybody that's sitting, listening to this or watching this, the instant reaction, depending on where you are at the stage of the healing journey, because there is a journey, there is a healing journey that can take place, absolutely, there's no question about that. But if you hear this for the first time and you're reliving it every day, and you're in the middle of alcoholism, or you're taking drugs, or you're burying painkillers every single day to basically suppress the emotions, suppress the feelings so you don't need to deal with it, and you hear this for the first time, instantly the reaction will be, there is no way you can do that. And let me tell you, there absolutely is a way. The pain and suffering and the levels that people will go through, to not deal with it, and the place that they end up, eventually at some point, hopefully, they get to a place where enough is enough. Now, for a lot of people, they don't. A lot of people, they end their life and they had enough, and I completely understand that. I get that. I can understand when people get to a place of complete hopelessness where there's no way forward and it's time to end it. I understand that. But for many people, who are in a place where they've been through enough pain, they've been through enough suffering, they've been through the therapies possibly, maybe they haven't, maybe they've never tried anything. But for those who are ready, and those who are willing and ready to give it a go, to find a way to get beyond it, that journey itself isn't easy. It really isn't, because you're looking at things like, bringing it up. Start for 10, you need to bring it up. You need to be aware of what happened. You need to almost relive the experience and see it from fresh eyes. A lot of the times from your human perspective. And many times this happened decades ago, at a time when a lot of the time the brain wasn't formed properly, so your conscious memory and your logical thinking mind and the situation you were in, it's very easy to distort that and very difficult to make sense of, but there is absolutely, the first part would be to acknowledge it and to get it up and to be with it and go, right, okay, what has it actually happened? Let's see what actually happened. And then at that point, the journey itself and the way that it moves forward, it can happen very quickly. I've saw literal miracles. One person in particular who went through 20 years of trauma was left for dead in a sexual situation, basically gang raped and left for dead, and then spent 20 years basically trying to work it out. And then going about this work, and it was basically an energy session, a healing session, a healing with intention, energy work. That basically the light was able to come back in, reconnect back in to the self, back into our soul, and I watched what happened off the back of that. And it was nothing that I did, it was basically her reconnecting back to the divine. I believe that I helped create the space in terms of my intention, which was just to give her a break from the reality she was living and the pain of the previous 20 years. But the healing that came in, the light that came back into her life and who she's became since that. Miracles can happen, and her story and where she started, if she can get it, then anybody can get it, so absolutely as a way, but the journey itself towards healing, once you bring it up, and you feel within the body, where it resides within the body, the trauma can be stored at so many different levels within the body. Obviously your feelings and your emotions, a lot of times that isn't even the case. A lot of people are separated from that and they have no feelings, no emotions. A lot of people cannot feel love. They can't really experience any of these emotions within the body because the separation has been so brutal or so significant at such a young age that they basically put themselves in a position where they're completely separated from all of that. So to reconnect back in, to go back into the event that happened, to decide to go on a journey to get beyond it, you're looking at things like forgiveness, which again, somebody hearing that is like, how can you ever forgive? But forgiveness is one of those things that it's a timing thing with forgiveness. You know, it's and I'm going to speak from my experience here a wee bit. I'm not going to get into things too much, but I'm going to speak from my experience. And one of the instances that I faced when I was young, and this was rife within, you know, football. I was probably 15 years old. I had a groin injury, and one of the physiotherapists I was seeing regular. I mean, if you could take a picture of a paedophile, it was this guy, and he was a lovely wee guy. He was a great physio. He was a great kind of funny, laugh, happy guy. But I was in there for months and months. I had a groin injury for basically 18 months, and he was basically treating my groin. And he tried a couple of things on with me. Now at that age, at 15, you know, I can remember him, and when I started to bring this up, I'd completely buried this. I hadn't dealt with it my whole life until I went through, you know, that experience off the backside of Ibiza. And when the memories were, I couldn't even remember it, you know, some of the things. And I wasn't the only one. He tried this with quite a few other lads. And I believe at the time, in fact I know at the time because it came into the news a few years later, Celtic Boys Club was terrible for it. You know, the amount of kids that were going in there, and probably sold the dream of playing with Celtic, and these absolute just animals. You know, how they abused the position and the sexual abuse that basically, you know, that took place within the organisation. With me at the time, I was with Motherwell at the time, the physiotherapist was with Motherwell, and the man himself, when I think back, you know, and I started to relive the experiences that I had, where he was basically working on my groin, and he was just repulsive. He was smoking, he just, the way that he looked, the way that he smelled. And he died many years later. So when I brought this up, it broke my heart, you know, because, you know, I'd forgotten about it, I'd buried it. But when I brought it up, you know, and I started to think about it, and I started to think about him, many years, you know, sitting in meditation, a lot of times just like grating my eyes out, you know, because trying to make sense of different things that had happened. And, you know, the thing that really got me to that place of forgiveness was really simple. When he died, and I could feel how he died. He was an alcoholic, drank himself to death. And when he died, you know, many years later that I heard that he died, the first thought was good. You know, I hope he's burning in hell. That was my first instant reaction. Of course it was, because I'd heard through a few people that I'd worked with, you know, the things that he'd done to them, and you know, all of a sudden you're like, alright, so it wasn't just me, and there was nothing too bad with me. There was nothing, no rape or nothing like that. You know, for whatever reason, it was able to stop, or I stopped, or whatever happened. I can't quite remember. Just nothing happened that went too far. But a lot of people didn't, you know, and a lot of things happened to them. And you know, when I heard their stories as to what they'd been through, it made me feel a wee bit of peace with it. And I started to go in. I'm thinking, right, because it was always affecting me. It was every single day I was sitting in meditation. I'd be sitting 3-4 o'clock in the morning, sitting trying to connect into God, to heal myself. And on that healing journey, those first 10 years, it was all this stuff. It was every single thing that had ever happened to me on any level. All the hurt, all the pain, all the shame, all the ways I'd let myself down, the ways that other people had affected me. That was a healing journey for me when I came out of Ibiza. That was the first 10 years of my journey. It was like every single thing that's within this vessel, every single thing, between the vaccine damage, between, you know, the heartbreak of not being able to play football, you know, the heartbreak of how compromised my health was because of the vaccines, and obviously the kind of the sexualisation stuff as well. So many different bits were coming up, and memories were coming up of different things that just, you know, it was very difficult, a difficult time. And that's why, you know, to greet and to get it out and to feel the release and the relief is so important. For me, I was in such a place at the time in terms of my spiritual growth, where I knew because of my teachers that no matter what it was that was going to come up, I knew there was going to be a way to get beyond it. I just knew it without anybody ever having to teach me that or show me the way. I knew by getting up and sitting in meditation between 2 and 3 hours every single morning, between 3 o'clock in the morning, and I went to work at probably 7:30 in the morning, I would sit in silence and the stuff would come up and I would find the relief, I would find the healing. And during this time, you know, I was thinking about him a lot. And it was actually, it was really helpful to me as a physiotherapist. He was a funny wee guy. He was a decent human being. I'm sitting in meditation one morning. I'm like, how do I find relief? How do I find a healing in this? There's a great poem that Wayne Dyer taught me. It comes from, I believe it's William Blake, and he talks about forgiveness. And please forgive me because I never recited this, but I kind of seem to know it. And he talks about forgiveness being the fragrance that the rose sheds on the heel that has crushed it. And I remember reading that, you know, the thought of the heel crushing the rose So basically killing the rose, but the fragrance that comes off it, that's what forgiveness feels like. And that analogy, when it came up, sitting in meditation, I probably just was listening to it at the time through Dr. Dyer. And I'm like, how do I forgive that? Like, how do I forgive him? And how to get myself beyond it? How do I find the way to get beyond it? And really simply, in an instant, and I don't know where it came from, I saw, or at least I felt, or I had the idea of, the question of, what is it that happened to him that made him become that? And instantly, it was gone. The love that I felt for him, the compassion that I felt for him, the horrors that I felt he'd been through in his life, because you don't just pick it up, you don't just lick it off the grass, yet something would need to happen to you to enable you to go and do that to another human being, or at least try that with another human being. And instantly when I saw that, I could feel where he was, I could feel the pain that he was in, I could feel, when it all stopped and he basically died and went back to spirit. I don't believe he was sitting in hell, I don't believe in hell, but I saw the horrors that he'd been through, and instantly I just wanted to send him love, not quite give him a hug, but I just wanted to send him love and basically give him forgiveness. And the minute I forgave him, I found a relief within myself, and it was gone. It was completely gone. And every single thing I have ever had to get beyond, in all different areas, all different levels within my life, my own healing journey, the forgiveness that takes place when you are able to give forgiveness and see the part that you played within it. I mean, who's to know? One of the things I used to think of it was like, what if this stuff that I've carried into this lifetime, you understand the kind of, it's probably the yogi philosophy and the Eastern philosophy, whereby, the reincarnation and the journey of the soul. I mean, who's to say that many, many lifetimes ago, I wasn't on the other end of that, I wasn't that type of person, and this evolved version of me, which I have been able to absolutely progress during this lifetime. Who's to say that in previous lifetimes, the journey of this soul, which is eternal, that might have been me? I don't know. So for whatever reason, I attracted that into my life. For whatever reason, I don't know what it was. I would never have intended to attract it into my life, obviously, but it happened. It absolutely happened. So at that point, it's like, right, okay, what has it happened to him? Sending him love, complete forgiveness, and at that point, the healing took place, and I came beyond it, and now I can talk about it. I now stand in stages, and I'll mention this kind of stuff. Listen, for anybody who has been through it on different levels, and I have experience in it, but I also know the way that I got beyond it, the way that I was able to find a relief and find a healing for myself, and forgiveness is absolutely a part of that. When you forgive them, you get it for yourself. The forgiveness comes in, and there's something about that light that comes inside you that just changes everything. So the stages to the healing process, the realisation, the bringing it up, eventually the realisation of the part that you played in it, and then getting to that forgiveness. It's nigh on impossible to get beyond it if you don't find the forgiveness, because once you get it up and get it out, and you start to you stabilise a wee bit, then because of the practices, then because of the meditation, this is why this way of doing things, the solutions, it doesn't matter what it is. With a meditation practice, by going inside, by getting out of the head, by even getting out of, not getting out of the heart, because you want to reconnect back into your heart, but getting out of the decimation of the heart and whatever's happened to you during this lifetime, through devotional meditation practices, after a certain period of time, when you start to reconnect back into the light of God, to the light of the divine, I always say it's like taking the candle into the darkened room. When you take a candle into the darkened room, the darkness disappears, and for me, I suppose when I experienced, I believe, full enlightenment, the direct experience of all that I am, the divinity, what happened was every single thing that had ever been wrong, everything that had happened to me was gone in an instant, because I remembered the power that was inside me. I remembered the I am presence, the divinity that I carried inside me, the divinity that I came from, the divinity that when I die, I get back to. So all of a sudden, it didn't matter what had happened in this lifetime. I made peace with it instantly. And also I got to see that, you know what? And this is why I say nothing's in vain. Almost every single thing that happened had to happen. In fact, it did have to happen. Because without that journey, without these negative experiences, as Abraham would say, the contrast is brilliant. Are you enjoying the contrast? The pain and the suffering of the contrast, that's the fuel for the fire. A lot of people never get beyond the contrast. A lot of people, the contrast just takes them out, and they find themselves buried in addiction, end up suicidal, and they'll miss the opportunity. But if you are able to be conscious and still be here and still be present, there is a way to get beyond it. And for me, always is about breaking the chains. It's so you don't pay it forward. It's so you don't pass it on. Whatever happened to that man and how he paid it forward to myself and others. You know, if he'd have known this information, if I was able to sit down with him now and go, right, okay, how do we heal him? How do we get him in? And it's a reconnection back to the divine. I believe that's the only way that fixes this. Because once you reconnect back to the true self, once you reconnect back to the light, then we have the opportunity not to pay it down the line. And by paying it down the line, I'm not talking about re-offending or doing the same stuff that's been done to you. A lot of the times, because of the parents, the way they've been through their life and the stuff that's happened to them, it can be alcoholism, you know, it can be drug addiction, it can be gambling, it can be even just addiction to sex. You know, because of stuff that's happened to them, they're in this runaway train where basically they go on this mission, this journey of just complete unconscious madness, and then the effect that has on the family. You know, not by any like direct negative impact on the family in terms of the stuff that they pay forward to their children because of what happened to them, but just them not being present. You know, just them not being there. A lot of my journey, a lot of the healing journey I've been on, I know I've not been present with my kids. You know, I've not been able to be, you know, the way that I could be. There's one man in particular just now who is a beam of light, a human being within the vortex just now, who's part of the inner circle. And I watch him going through his life where nothing has ever really happened to him. And I've seen him with his kids, like young kids, and I watch who he is. And also my wife as well. When I see my wife who's just at this life of just goodness and light, and I watch how she's up all the time and she's happy almost all the time, and she's joyful and it's always the light, and I'm like, that's the way that it's meant to be. That is absolutely fantastic. That's how it should be for every parent, for every family environment, because if we got it to that stage, then everything will get better. You know, and for me, with this work that I've done, this intentional work, you know, which has always been, you know, first and foremost to heal myself, and then, you know, to be there for everybody else, I have absolutely been compromised because of my own journey and my own healing mission to get to this place I now find myself, even now still dealing with vaccine damage, still dealing with hyperstimulated immune system, still can't really sleep properly. Also the stuff that I'm taking on every single day by working with people, of course that affects me. I walk into the house at night time after being in here for 10-12 hours, you know, and you sit down for dinner and you've just heard some of the most horrific stuff you've ever heard that someone went through 40 years ago. You know, as an empath, you know, when you do this work, I believe that I go through it with people, you know, I actually help them to heal. You get at a heart level and a soul level. The amount of times I've cried for somebody and they will find relief because we're in it together. Obviously when you go back upstairs for your dinner, or you're back upstairs, a lot of the time just now it's late at night, I'm going back up and straight to bed, you know, you're carrying it with you and you're processing it. So obviously you're not going to be completely present for the ones that you love the most, you know. So they absolutely, over the years, and it's something they have dealt with it. They don't really know about it, if I'm being honest with you. It's me, I've missed out on it, you know. They're having a great time, they're all doing magic, you know, but me, because I've not been present, because of the stuff that I've had to deal with, you know. So there's many different levels to it, there really is. It's a challenging subject, it's something that needs to be addressed, it's something that so many people can see, the problems of the world, the way that it's brought into the world, you know, the way that it's normalised, the way that it's basically everywhere you look, you know, the sexualisation, how it's become normal, just the absolute filth and depravity that you see anywhere. How, you know, that has just become the way of doing things. It isn't working, you know, it really isn't working. And, you know, we see how it is and then we can fix it. That's the way that I'm looking at this. You know, it doesn't matter what you're coming in with, it doesn't matter how bad it is, it doesn't matter where you're starting. You know, to acknowledge it and then the desire to get beyond it. I'm all about transcendence. You know, whether you ever get back, you know, that divine perfection, that divine innocence that we come in with as children, like children of God, one of my old friends used to say, which I absolutely love, I believe that, you know, the process that I take people through, it's all about reconnecting back into that. And that is absolutely possible because you carry it inside of you. That divine essence is inside of you. And through meditation, the gift is breathwork. The gift is the breathwork, the bridge inside, the power of awareness, the power of intention, and then the desire to be in alignment with all that you are. That's where miracles take place. That's where the magic happens. That's where the healing takes place. And at some point, you know, you get the opportunity to give it up, to let it go, and to transcend it and get beyond it. Now, do you ever get back to that way that it's meant to be? Probably not. Possibly not. Probably not. You know, you get to that way of just being happy and joyful and absolutely buzzing that nothing had ever happened to you. I don't know if you can. I really don't. What I do know is these tools and techniques enable you to make your way through day to day. And sometimes you can go in and you can remember the stuff again through awareness. You can basically have the awareness not to do that, and by intention as well, you know, the choice not to do that. But sometimes you're sitting in meditation and something will come up. Something will come up and you'll remember it. And the minute you remember it, you relive the experience. You know, but then with these tools again, you have the ability to go, okay, I've dealt with that. And you deal with it in different levels. It's like the layers of an onion, it's like the layers of an onion. You might have think you've got it, you might have think you've dealt with it, and then at some point 10 years later you might be sitting and something will happen. Not too long ago I was driving through somewhere down the west coast, and again a situation that I dealt with as a child, and straight away I was like right back into that experience, and I was like from feeling great and watching the sun and driving up the coast, and we're actually going away for a retreat for the weekend. I felt amazing, and we drove past this location. I was like, holy like bang, straight back into it. And in the next few hours I was compromised because I was reliving it, and that was an opportunity for me to go, right, okay, like that's another bit that needs to be healed. That's another, like a samskara they would call it, the yogis would call it a samskara, an imprint within the physical, within the heart, within the soul that you've carried for how many lifetimes. The journey of the soul, you're carrying it in this lifetime. It still needs to be relieved, it still needs to be resolved. You need to let it go, and if you don't know that it's there, if you don't bring it up, then you can't get it out and let it go. And then the most important part is how we heal it. How we get beyond it is by bringing in the light, the reconnection back to the divine. That's what fixes everything. It fixes every single thing that it touches. To be still and know that I am God. So that non-duality, we human beings are in duality, the yin and the yang, the black and the white, the ebb and the flow, the two sides to the coin, all that kind of stuff. Whereas God, the source, the light, that's non-dual. That's the source. So by us reconnecting, by experiencing reunion, by getting back into line with the source, at that point all the duality disappears, and at that point the healing takes place. And then, thanks to the choice, we have the ability every single day to get up, to dust yourself down, and to go again. And that's where these practices, this program, these tools and techniques, primarily they're a tool for healing. Starter for 10 is to heal yourself and every single thing that's ever happened to you. And then eventually, once the healing takes place, then we can go from the survival state up to thrival. It needs to be thrival to get the world back to the way that it's meant to be. And the first phase, unfortunately, is a wee bit messy. It's a dirty process. It's not easy to go through it. I cried so many tears over so many years, over so many different subjects, that I've been through in different areas of my life. But now when I stand back and I look at it, there's very little brings me to tears now. It's mostly tears of joy now and tears of happiness. Or if somebody else comes in and I can remember, because I'm going through it with them, they're at an entry level, they're just starting to make sense of it, they're starting to bring it up, and they'll tell me their stories, and I'm in with them as an empath, and I'm going through it with them. At that point when they leave, tears will come up, absolutely. The amount of times I've been sitting with somebody and they're going through breath work, and stuff will start to come through me in terms of the language that's coming through, and I'll just break into tears. My students see it very often in meditation. I'll be sitting, and a lot of times I'll feel my mum standing beside me, and I can feel the love that she's got for me, and the tears that come through me are washing away anything else that needs to be cleansed. You're literally greeting it out and letting it go. So it's a fascinating process, the healing journey. It's really quite simple. Just become God. Be still and know that I am God. That fixes everything. But because of the mind, because of the belief system, because of the different levels and the different kind of, I suppose, the imprints of this world and what it has on you, it's dead simple but no easy. But absolutely, please know there is a way. So to get it up, to speak about it, to accept it, being the victim consciousness, we allow that in the beginning, but eventually you need to basically own it and realise the part that you've played in it. I don't do victim consciousness. I don't do people, reliving their story. That's why I say you get to tell your story once with me, and then I do a great process. I call it the line in the sand, where you basically step across the line in the sand and you never tell your story ever again. And that's really difficult for people that have been telling their story their whole life, as to the reasons as to why they're fucked, or to why they're not well, or to why they turned out the way they did. At a certain point, you have the ability to get it in this lifetime, to step across that line in the sand, to look back to see how far you've came, absolutely, but at some point you need to give it up. If you wish to get to that place of salvation, if you wish to get to that place of transcendence, where you get beyond it and you start to look back and go, you know what, that had to happen. And almost to the point, in fact not almost to the point, if I'm speaking my truth, I'm glad that every single bit of it happened because of who I became and the people I can now help with this work. If I didn't go through all those different events on so many different subjects, I wouldn't be qualified to stand up and go, you know what, aye, that's what happened to me. Mental health's a big one. Anxiety, depression, how bad is it? I know where I was. I know the blackness of being suicidal, of absolutely wanting to kill myself, like no feelings, no emotions, PTSD, the soldiers putting guns in my mouth and firing, clicking guns off, and just being chained to a bed in a mental hospital and being told I would never leave there and all that kind of stuff, having to fly back from Mallorca in a private jet with 2 doctors. That's how sick I was with mental health. And people come in, they're a wee bit overwhelmed, or they're a wee bit depressed because they've just lost their job, and I'm going, alright, okay, there's this is easy. This is dead simple. So you need to be qualified. You need to have been through it. To experience is to understand, and you can't buy it. You need to live the experience. That's why a lot of my students just now, when they come in, they've been through wars. They are absolute survivors. And at that point I go, great, because if you keep going with this, at some point you're going to be able to stand on a stage and go, you know what, this is what happened to me. Jim Rohn, I think it was, he says, are you going to make your story, is it going to be an example or a warning? So to make it an example of the possibilities of the human spirit, how you got beyond it. This is what happened to me. I tell my story now. First 10 years I told my story like poor fucking me. Eventually I had to give up that story, and now I tell my story as an example. There's no sadness. I look back with delight as to, you know what, if that didn't happen to me, I wouldn't be able to talk about it, and I wouldn't be able to help you. So it's all good. Every single bit of it has been absolutely perfect. And who's to say, maybe that was God's plan, so you can get to this place where you can pass it forward. So you get to see it from a different perspective. So very simply, enlightenment, it's as simple as that. To become enlightened, to experience the divinity of God that's inside every single one of us. Meditation is the way. The programme, I believe, is the bridge. It's the stepping stones. Learning the tools and techniques, there's very many of them. It takes a wee while to learn the language. It takes a while to, go in and calm the mind and switch off the nervous system. Everything matters. Your diet, how you sleep, who you're spending time with, what you're putting in, your environment. It all matters. Of course it does, every single bit of it. But the healing journey, if that's your intention, there absolutely is a way, and it's all about transcendence. We need to get beyond it. This is why I'm absolutely against it. The whole the 12-step programme, that came up again a couple of times last week. A couple of people I dealt with, the 12 steps, sat in their rooms their whole life, where they go in and they talk about who they were, and they talk about how bad it was, and they talk about what they've done, and they talk about the decimation they've caused, and it's like fucking, it's like Tony Robbins, he used to talk about like taking the knife or the dart and putting it into the record and just keeping scoring it and scoring it and scoring it, and you put the record on, you put the needle on the record, and it can't get out the groove because you've dug it so deep. So by telling that story every single time, by reliving that experience of who you were all the way back, you never get beyond it. And this is all about transcendence. That's why I love the one step. And 12-step people hate the one step, because the one step for me is all about alignment. Once you experience enlightenment, once you experience alignment with all that you are, the light comes back on, and then you get to tell a different story. And then the choice becomes, I'm never going to tell that story ever again. That might have been who I was, but going forward, that's not who I am now. And everything changes. From darkness to light. If you keep spending your time in the darkness, don't be surprised if that's what keeps showing up. If you've had enough and it's time to move forward, please know that there is a way. There absolutely is a way. So on that note, we see the horrors of the world. We can see how bad it is. It's so difficult to navigate, especially as a parent, when you see what some people are doing. We need to fix it. We need to see how bad it is so we can fix it. I believe that this work is all about, the power that's in the divine, power versus force. So it doesn't matter the horribleness, whether it's satanic, whether it's, by whatever design it is, who cares? I don't believe in that stuff. I really don't. I believe in God. I believe in the light. I believe in the answers and the solutions. All my focus are on the solutions. So by reconnecting back to the light, we deal with the shite. It's dead simple. We take it all away. When we reconnect and remember back to the power that's inside of us, it doesn't matter what comes your way. There's nothing they can do about it, and they are terrified of this shit. They are terrified of God and the light. Absolutely, that's why they're so sneaky and tricky about it. The power of God, it does away with all of that, and that's exciting stuff. So that being said, inwards and upwards is the way. The programme is my offering to the world, my work over the last, this is my 28th year, working out of myself. I believe that it fixes every single thing that it touches, because I've experienced that no matter what it is. It doesn't matter what you come in with, there is a way to get beyond it. It takes a wee bit of work, you don't get it for free, it takes a wee bit of time, depending on how much work you put into it. For me it was a devotional practice over all those years. It doesn't take you 28 years, don't worry. There are bridges, there are shortcuts. It can happen very quickly, it can happen in one session, it can happen in one weekend, it can happen in one meditation. There's all different ways you can run about it. It's a timing thing. It's absolutely a timing thing, and when you're ready, when the time comes to do the work, it's so difficult to look onto the internet. Even some of the world leaders, I'm not going to name anybody, but some of the world leaders that are basically talking about childhood stuff and their traumas and what they went through, and you listen to them for 2 minutes and it's like, holy, where's the healing in this? How do you get beyond this? One man I'm going to mention, and I wish him all the love in the world, is Gabor Mate. But I know a lot of people that have spent a lot of time with him, and they're reliving that stuff all the time, and it's like, and I can feel the energy that he's at. And I'm going, that's not the light, that's not it. You know, to make sense of it intellectually, to understand it, you know, in terms of from a, you know, the education perspective as to why you're the way you are. But at some point you need to go like, fuck all that, because the answers aren't in here. The answers are not in the mind, the answers are not talking about it, or making sense of it, you know, or rationalising it, or none of that kind of stuff. You need to transcend it. And the only way you transcend that stuff is reconnection back to God. That's it. There's nothing else. That's the solution. That's the way that fixes everything. And that's a literal fact, and that's the truth, and you'll feel that's a truth within yourself. You know, so out of the head, back into the heart. The programme, The Solution, version 2, is just about to be released. You know, excited for that. I don't know how it's going to go yet. Big Michael's working on it just now. We're breaking it up because the pace that it's moving at now, the speed of the group in terms of consciousness, if somebody walking in off the street had to sign up for the programme and jump into one of the meditations at 5:30 in the morning, good luck, you know, because it's fast moving. You know, there are people sitting in there, and a lot of people now have experienced enlightenment after the ceremony weekend, which is the next one's in the 8th of November, up the west coast, up in Argyll. The ceremony is a reconnection back to the self. So the people that went on that group that weekend, you know, the breathwork, the relaxation, the meditation, and the teepee, you know, and the river and the streams, with each other, like getting it up, getting it out, a wee bit of the plant medicine, you know, just different tools and modalities. But the ceremony is a reconnection back to the self, which is divine. You know, the higher self, the true self, the authentic you. That's the ceremony, that's the reconnection process. How we get there, there's different ways of doing that, but once you reconnect back in, I watch it in the meditations in the morning time. I jumped on at 4 o'clock this morning, there's 2 people sitting in the group, sitting in meditation. By about 4:30, 4:45, there was 8 people sitting in silent meditation, getting it for themselves before the actual live meditation took place at 5:30. So that speed is moving faster and faster all the time. So the new version of the programme, version 2, is going to be staged. There's going to be different parts to it so that people can come in and maybe just get some videos, they can just get some guided breath work, how to get into the cold, the basic stuff, which is fine for a lot of people. But for those that are really committed and want to go in, you know, and get it for themselves and experience everything I'm talking about, and also to contribute to the solutions of this world. The plan is to heal the world. That's it. It's to fix the world. Really, really simple. It might not be that easy, but really recently I'm starting to get glimpses of it, because people standing beside me, they're now seeing it as well. They're now seeing the power within this work because of their own experience, and they're now looking and going, you know what, how are we going to do this? And the skill set that's coming in, business, social media stuff, the different people that are putting things together, I'm now getting less and less to do. My job now is to be in alignment, to tend to myself, and to present it to the world. That's it. They're doing a lot of the stuff in the background to enable me to represent them as well, because they know the power that's in it. So version 2, don't know when it's coming out. It's going to be pretty soon. There will be a launch. Excited for it, and everything else that's going on just now. It's all about solutions. It's amazing how many people are suffering just now, and I could name you dozens of people just now that are flying. The inner circle within the vortex in particular, the ones that are in that group, was 24 in this morning, sitting in meditation, an hour and a half, nobody moved, just sitting in silence, reconnection back to themselves, finding their way. Why? So they can take it in the world, and they know by doing the work, that's the key, doing the work every single day, that everything gets better. By tending to yourself, which is the only thing you should be doing, you get it for yourself first, the power that's inside you, and then at that point, then we can go and fix the world. Inspiration over motivation, motivation's too hard. Power versus force, from darkness to light is what it's all about. Once we understand the light and what I'm talking about, the reconnection process that takes place through that direct experience, then it becomes easy. Deepest love, my sisters and my brothers, all my love to you and yours. If you are suffering, I send you love. There is a way, there absolutely is a way. Any way that we can help, please ask. God bless you and yours. Take it easy. See you soon, and bye for now.